I'm getting more and more questions from property managers with this question right here. Hey, Mark, what's my property management company worth? Like, if I really wanted to sell this thing, how much could I get for it? And is there a market to sell? Because this is something that is new, really in the last 6 to 7 years in our industry. More than a decade ago, if you wanted to sell your company or you were going to retire, well, good luck. Maybe you can find someone to buy it, but there really wasn't a standard exit plan. That has changed, and that's good news for us as an industry because now we have options. When it comes time to be done, maybe you're retiring, maybe you're just tired of the whole thing, maybe you're going to do something else, but there are buyers, active buyers on both the local and national level who are interested in buying your property management company. So let me just give you a couple thoughts around that as well as share with you where valuations from what we've seen are starting at in the industry. And number one, even if you're like, Mark, I don't think I ever want to sell my company, please, my friends, get ahead of the game and do this. Add a clause in your property management agreement, an assignment clause that allows you to assign your property management agreement to somebody else because someday you may want to sell. And this is one of the most important aspects to have should you want to sell your PM company because you need to be able to assign those property management contracts, those agreements, to the new buyer. If you don't have this clause, there's still ways around it, there's workarounds, but it's so much simpler and it's probably going to increase the value because it increases the simplicity of the process should you decide to sell. So check your agreement, make sure you have an assignment clause in your property management agreement to a new buyer, should you're not a new buyer, but to somebody else should you ever wish to do that. Okay, number one. Number two, where do valuations start? The basic rule of thumb is that valuations begin, and it's very important to understand, they start at about 1 times gross earnings. 1 times gross earnings. Now that doesn't mean the rent that you collect. It means how much money you as the property manager bring in over the course of a year. So let's pretend you make $10,000 a month in management fees and maybe you make another $10,000 in other fees. So you bring in $20,000 a month. Well, to get an idea of how much your company is worth, take your $20,000, multiply it times 12 months, which is going to be 200 times, I should be able to figure this out, 200 times 10, 20 times 10 would be 200, it'd be $240,000. Whew, it's embarrassing. $240,000. That's where it starts. Now, it may go up a little bit from there or down a little bit from there based upon the other parts of your business. What's your web presence? How strong is your SEO? What kind of a lead flow of new owner clients do you get? What's your percentage of door count to owners? If it's 1-to-1, that's a good thing. If you've got 100 doors but only 2 owners, that's going to bring that valuation way down because the risk level went up. How many additional income streams do you have? How long have you been in business? All those factors are either going to take that 1 times valuation higher or they're going to pull a little bit lower. And there's many, many factors that come into place that way. Now, a couple other things around this. This is gross income. It's not net. We're starting at about 1 times gross. And you do want to back out a couple things. So typically, buyers are not going to include the value of your sales. If you do real estate sales and you say, well, gosh, I made an extra $25,000 this year in sales commissions. They're not typically going to pay you for that because those are not guaranteed recurring revenue. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't. So you want to back that out. You also want to back out things like your cost of goods sold. So if you have maintenance, for example, and maintenance is an income stream to you, and let's say you hired 2 maintenance techs internally, so that means you make an extra $50,000 in income in maintenance, but you're spending $45,000 to pay your person, well, you got to net that out. So when you're calculating your valuation, you don't count the full $50,000 gross on your income as your maintenance, you're going to net out the $5,000 profit on that part of the business. Hopefully that makes sense. I know we don't have a lot of time to go into detail. We're just trying to give you some big thoughts. So it's the gross income, but you back out your cost of goods sold on things like maintenance. That's going to give you that number. Now, I've seen things go up as high as 3 times gross. I've seen things come way down from that. And then there are many different ways to structure the buyout. But as we're talking about gross income, one question that comes up, I hear this sometimes. Well, Mark, what about EBITDA? EBITDA. That's the earnings before interest, taxes, deductions, and what's the A? Depreciation. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and I'm blanking out. Man, I'm not doing very well today, but that's okay. We'll keep going. See, obviously it's complex. I can't even remember all the initials. To quote the esteemed Charlie Munger, who of course is the business investing partner of Warren Buffett, when you see this, you start to freak out and you're like, oh, this is getting too complicated. Let me quote Charlie Munger, who's one of the most brilliant investment minds in the world. He says this. He says, when I'm looking at businesses, I think that every time you see the word EBITDA, you should substitute the word BS earnings. My point is this, don't let that scare you. Just go off of gross earnings, all right? If the buyer comes in and they're trying to woo you with an EBITDA calculation, maybe you just say, yeah, sorry, not interested. I want to keep this simple. So don't let that become an intimidation factor, even if you, like me, can't remember sometimes what the A stands for. It'll come to me at the end of the video and then I'll feel all embarrassed here. So don't worry about that. Stick with simplicity. Number 3, get several offers. If you're really interested in selling, there are a number of buyers. And by the way, if you have no idea who to contact on that, drop me an email, marc@rentgrace.com. I'll be happy to introduce you to some buyers that are out there that I know that are aggressively looking to purchase companies around the U.S. But you want to make sure that you get an idea of what your company is worth, that you get bids or you get offers from multiple companies. You're going to want to look at the terms, because the terms of these things change a lot. Are they just going to write you a big fat check? Probably not. They're probably going to have some type of a finance period. And before I talk about the finance period specifically, I want to thank our sponsor for this month's video, CredHub. We're talking about the valuation of your business. The more income streams you have, the more your company's worth, the more you're going to be able to sell it for someday. Well, CredHub is an add-on that you can offer to your tenants. They do a number of things. The coolest thing I think, personally, they do is they report your tenants' on-time payments to the credit bureaus. So this could be part of your resident amenity package. Are you doing a resident amenity package? It's a fee that your tenants would pay to you for amenities, for benefits. It's an income stream to you, which not only helps you provide a higher level of service to your tenants, but it increases your income, thereby increasing the valuation of your company when it comes time to sell. Now they've got other things as well that they can offer, that you can offer through CredHub to your tenants. But the idea of being able to put on-time payments and late payments, that's very important as well, on your tenants' credit reports directly through CredHub and automatically without any work from you, my friends, it's a no-brainer. Reach out to credhub.com, find out how they can help you, get the demo. I know them, good folks. Okay, number 4, your level of involvement will impact the sale price. You need to understand that. If you're a one-man or one-woman shop and you're going to sell that and you're working 70 hours a week to keep that thing going, your valuation's not going to be real high, because the buyer's going to have to go in and hire somebody else to work 70 hours a week to keep the business going. So the more that you're not involved in the day-to-day operation, the higher the value. Lower involvement, higher value. Higher involvement, lower value of the company. Because a buyer wants to buy a business. They don't want to buy a job. None of us are going to pay a lot of money to buy a job. We'll pay a lot to buy a business that's self-sustaining and doesn't require a high level of effort, but we're not going to pay a whole lot if it requires a lot from us. Now, for most of us in this industry, we do work in our businesses. That's just the reality. But the more you can work yourself out of the business, the more process-driven, the more systematized, the less the business depends on you as the owner, the higher the value of the business. And our last point is this. This comes up often. What is a clawback? You'll hear this very, very often in the purchase arrangement or the purchase agreement, is that the buyer will want a clawback, meaning I'm going to buy your business today, but I don't know who's going to stick around. I'm the buyer. Right? What if half these people leave in 3 months because they don't like me? And I'm not doing anything wrong, but they didn't like you as the seller, and now they're mad, and so now they leave. I can't write a big check to you as the buyer and take that risk on. So we'll typically have what's called a clawback provision, meaning for a certain duration of time, sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes I've seen it up to a year, that if certain clients leave, then the sale price I'm paying to you, Mr. Seller, is going to go down. So instead of paying you payments of $5,000 a month for 12 months, if more than, I'm just making up numbers here, if more than 10% of these owners leave, then that payment won't go, it'll go from $5,000 a month down to $3,000 a month. So there's many, many ways to structure this. There's no right or wrong. There's many, many ways. We bought many companies over the last couple of years, and it can be a very good way of bringing new doors into your business. But if you're a buyer, be cautious. You can get excited about it. There's a lot that can go wrong. There's also a lot that can go right. But it's a great way to get out of this business when the time comes. In fact, I hope that's helpful to you. Jump on our website. We've got information on buying property management companies. We've got contacts there at pmbuild.com. Until next time, I wish you success.